Good morning, friends and family of YouTube. It's Travis again. And before I get started, I just want to say a special thanks to all of you that have watched my videos. I've actually hit the 1,000 subscriber mark this week, which far exceeds any expectations that I had. I always joked about having tens and tens of views on my videos. Thought I might have maybe 30, 35 subscribers. But now that I've hit 1,000, I mean, that's just absolutely incredible. So thank you very, very much for that. But now to get started into the video itself, Bridget and I actually went to Townsend, Tennessee yesterday to visit the Great Smoky Mountains Heritage Center. I've been past that numerous times on my way to the mountains to hike, but had never actually stopped to see what was there. Will tell you there is a cost, but you can go on the website to verify the cost before you go. You can also check out their times. But just to get started, when you first go in to the building itself, you'll go through the lobby area. That's where you'll pay for your admission, and there is a small gift shop, so you can pick up some items there if you are interested. Part of the tour is the interior. This is just an unfinished area that they're still working on, which I thought was pretty neat. And then you will go through several rooms that contain a ton of history about early settlers in the area, what life would have been like, what the school would have looked like, any of the tools and things they would have used, and they've got a lot of information on that, which is, I thought, really awesome. The fact that they have it built inside to look like the interior of what some of the cabins would have looked like back in the day, to try to help, give you that experience of, what the life would have looked like on a daily basis there. But as you go on through, they've got a lot of information also on the early Native American history as well. Lots of artifacts that they've had. And one of the things I did notice that there were some that were missing, and one of the things that they've started to do is return some of those artifacts that were taken without authorization from digging sites. And then you go to the exterior, and the first one that you come to is the moonshine still. And if you notice in the very back left, you'll see looks like some kind of a table with some jars on it. That's actually an elevator. It was based on this particular gentleman who had hid his moonshine still in the basement of his barn. But when you go around to the top of it, but over on the far right, you see that box. I'll zoom around here in just a second again. That's actually it's got a piece of glass over the top of it that you look down below, and it shows that elevator shaft. And then as you walk through, here's the exterior of what some of the cabins look like. The next building you come to is the smokehouse. So this is where they would have cured and stored their meats over the winter. So the next one is the Montvale Station. Looks like it was basically room and board. What it would have looked like. They've got it decorated with a lot of items from that time period to, just give you a feel of what life would have been like back then, which I thought was pretty cool. I just pan around and get a lot of the different items in here. Probably a little too much, more information than you need, but, the old sewing machine, some of the pottery that they would have had, an old piano, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm always fascinated. I can't play the piano, but I'm fascinated by them. And then an old stove. Of course, they had a lot of information about each of these items as well, so you could spend a lot of time there depending on how much you wanted to learn about the history. Fireplaces, again, anytime I see a cabin, I'm always fascinated with the architecture of the fireplaces, different utensils that they would have used. Just tons and tons of items in here that you could explore, which I thought was just extremely fascinating. But yeah, if you get a chance, this is definitely, take some time, go through it, and really get a feel for what life would have been like back in the day. And then the next stop that we come to, this is actually Wilder's Chapel. So it's a small church. I'll be honest with you, I didn't get all the history on this particular one, but I'm sure you could look that up and find out some additional info. But just the fact that, a community like this would have had a small church at least, going up here to the where the pulpit area is, and then another piano that they would have had, which, like I said, just fascinated by the pianos. Don't know why. Wish I could play them. Maybe that's the reason. But and then we go over to one of the large barns, which they would have used to basically store their equipment. They probably hung up some of their crops in there to dry out. Maybe even kept some of their livestock in there at times. I think they had designated areas for that. But as you move up the pathway here, kind of see what the exterior looks like. And then here's another section of that particular barn. Even though this is probably a later tractor, it's still a John Deere, and John Deeres are awesome, so I'll put that in the video. Here's an old steam-powered engine that they could have used on the farm, and it really could have powered a lot of different pieces of equipment. I've seen them use them for logging, and just basically a way to automate a lot of manual work that would have been done back in the day. So a huge time saver. I know it looks antique compared to what we're used to back in the day. That was probably state-of-the-art technology. Here's just another view of one of the storage areas in the barn. The fact that, you know, I'm 51 years old, but I still climb through these buildings like I'm an 8-year-old exploring for the first time. So that's why you get these types of views on my videos. I just enjoy it. So, and then we come to the blacksmith shop and the wheelwright shop. So it shows some of the equipment that a blacksmith would have used back in the day, and there's more than you could even count. There's just so much, but it definitely gives you an idea of some of the things that they would have used. And then the wheelwright would have been anybody that made any kind of repairs to any type of wheel, wagon wheel or any other kind, which was essential back in the day. So also combines their equipment in there, and it might have been the same person that did both of these jobs, but as you can tell, it would have been somebody that would have really been skilled in that trade. Here's a small water tower, which that's kind of the first one I've seen from that time period, so that was pretty cool. And then here's another cabin that's just kind of shows you what life would have been like. One of the smaller ones didn't actually have access to that one. You could just see from the outside, but with the small stove and the beds, you could just see the minimum amount of space they would have had back then. And then this is like a sawmill, and if you see back there in the back left, there was a huge tree, and I wish I'd got more information on that. It was fascinating reading the history of it, but it was like 24 feet in diameter or circumference, so it was huge. And then this was the equipment they would use for the logging industry. And then next we get to the actually the printing press, which I thought was pretty cool. Shows some of the equipment that would have been used during that time period as well. Gives you some history of how that would have went, which was I thought fascinating myself. And then it also gives some history about the Daily Times, which is a local newspaper here in Maryville, Tennessee. So that would be something that you could definitely read up on while you were there. And then last, they have this huge outdoor amphitheater. It wasn't open. They weren't doing anything that particular day, but definitely you can tell that they would have some events. Here is another shot of what the pathway looks like as you go through this village. Like I said, you can't see this from the road, so I didn't even know this existed until we went back there, but it's just gives you a great example of what life would have been like. However, you know, you have to imagine that these cabins would have been spread out like over probably several miles. The communities probably didn't live quite this close together, but and then down towards the road, this you can actually see as you drive by, but is the heirloom garden. It's a garden that is maintained by a club there, which I thought was pretty cool. And I think you can walk up to see these last few exhibits without actually having to pay to go into the museum. And then there's one of the barns. And this is the Davis family cabin. And they've got a lot of information up that you can read. We were kind of going through this a little faster than probably should have, but we had some other stops that day. So, but you can see, you know, what the interior looks like, the way that they've got this set up. It just gives you a good idea of how people lived back in that day. And then the last one here is the Isaac Anderson cabin. And as we go up through here, you'll see that there's some information on the wall about this particular person. He was the founder of Maryville College, so one of the local colleges here in Maryville. Gives some detailed history about that. But this, definitely one of the nicer cabins out of the group to see. Probably, one of the larger ones as well. And if you've watched any of my videos, anytime I see that there's steps going upstairs, I try to investigate. This one was locked. You couldn't get up there, but you could see over the top to get a view of how much additional space that would have been there. And at that time period, I mean, that kind of space would have been absolutely incredible. So hopefully you enjoyed that. That gives you a little bit more information about what is contained there at the Heritage Center. If you are interested in local history, that is a great place to stop. Again, there is a fee to enter the museum and go back and see the little village behind it, but well worth it. Really enjoyed it. Probably takes about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how much time you want to spend there. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button. I'd also go ahead and ask you hit the subscribe button. Like I said, I'm up over 1,000 so far, so anybody else that would be willing to subscribe and interested in these videos and follow along, I would greatly appreciate it. But until next time, just keep walking.